Hey everybody, Arn here. Just wanted to drop in and spend a couple of minutes talking about handle material and how to choose the right handle material for your next knife or your first or next custom build. The options are endless. Like when people reach out, sometimes I think it's overwhelming because we start talking about knife steels, what properties they want there. We start talking about handle materials, and I get really excited about this stuff. And so, I start going, and I can just see like, ooh, even if it's through the phone, I can see the eyes kind of rolling in the back of their head. Maybe it's my wife from across the stair because she kind of keeps me in check on that stuff. She's like, let's clean it up. So let's clean it up. When we're looking at handles, the big criteria that I always like to address are, number one, what's the purpose and what's the aesthetic that you are trying to achieve? The purpose means, how are you going to use the knife? And so let's look at it from a hunting perspective, because for a kitchen knife, I mean, yes, we might look at different purposes, but it's in the kitchen. It's a relatively controlled environment. The one thing that you absolutely cannot do with any of these knives, any quality knife, is send it through the dishwasher. So let's just start right there. If we're talking a kitchen knife, it cannot go through the dishwasher. If it's something that is going to be used a lot, we might incorporate some of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about in the materials that we choose. But for the most part, if it's a kitchen knife for general use, I like to think sky's the limit. Have fun with it. Just know that certain materials are going to have to be cared for more. If we're talking about a hunting perspective, hunting knives, it's a different game out there. Those of you that know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. It's like this. Let's say that you're out there, it's October, November, and it's 15 degrees in the morning. The snow starts around 9:30. The temperature warms up to about 38 degrees by midday, and it rains the rest of the day. And you're out there, maybe you go back at lunch, but you're out there, depending on how you go about it, you're out there the whole freaking day. And by the time you come back, hopefully with having harvested, you are wet, you are cold, you are tired, right? And all of your gear is the same. So that's kind of a worst case scenario, but in that worst case scenario, the last thing you want is to go in and unpack your bags, a week later, and see your cherished workpiece is, destroyed, right? And when I say destroyed, like, there's a lot that we can do in a spa treatment with refurbishing a knife. And so it takes a lot to destroy that tool, and you really have to work hard at it, let's put it that way. But with that said, there are people that don't really want to put any time into it, and that's fine. I'll start with that. This is a model of RMF Hunter. It is in Nitro V stainless steel, and it has a G10 handle. This is one that is a prototype, and the purpose of it, my intention with it, was something that was very uniform, an easy build to be able to move through, but something that also would be able to be used by any hunter, because anybody can benefit from and use a good quality tool that's going to take very little care. All right, and that was the whole idea with this. We won't talk about blade steel and the stainless, just understand stainless is stainless, right? But we'll talk about the handle with G10. It's bulletproof. I mean, this stuff is absolutely insane. Okay, now you can't quote me on that. I guess this is my disclaimer. If a bullet is coming your way and you go ping, if you can line it up, great, but I don't know that would stop it. Steel and that, maybe, whatever. But the bulletproof thing, it was just a statement. It was a colloquialism, right? All right, I digress. So, looking at that material, G10 is awesome. It's absolutely impervious. You can use it in a wide range of applications. Certainly you can use it for hunting knives. You can use it for fillet knives. You can use it in your kitchen knives or on your kitchen knives. In fact, we have a number of our kitchen knives that actually are made with a G10 material. So it's a wonderful choice if somebody wants something that is going to resist the elements, resist chemicals. This is a worker's knife, all right? Super awesome. It's a synthetic material. You can get it in virtually any color. There's even G10 that has intermixed layers of rubber, so it has some texture to it and it has some grip. So it's a wonderful, wonderful material. It does not just come in blaze orange, comes in a wide variety of colors. Next material, I'll talk about another synthetic material that I really like. This is an older knife. And it's a little blocky as a result, just part of our family collection here, I guess you could say. But this is a piece of vintage micarta. And again, you probably can't see the texture really well right now. I don't have a piece that's, well, no, I've got some others that I'm going to show you in a second. So micarta was patented late 1800s, early 1900s, and then utilized in the early 20th century until now. Like, it's still used as a laminate composite material. So this material was used in fuselages for airplanes, fuse boxes. They made industrial pulleys out of this stuff, like literally anything. They made TV trays out of it, like plates, like all sorts of stuff. It comes in a wide variety of colors, and essentially what they did is they took different materials like paper, linen, rags, burlap, whatever was available, and laid it out, and then they poured resin over the top of it, cured it, and then there you go, there's your sheet, and then you can machine it. I mean, it is amazing stuff. And so, you know, the classic, the vintage stuff, like there's almost a cult following on it because it is hard to come by. Now, more modern, there are some modern manufacturers. In fact, I've got a gentleman just down the road, Greg Hansen, that produces a modern form of micarta. So in this one, he actually fused, he took an old vintage piece in the middle and then did a layup with his stuff on the outside. And so this is an example of some more modern stuff. They have just absolutely awesome designs. This was Starry Night is what they call it, and it looks like Van Gogh's Starry Night. Here's another one that they just did with the thin blue lines. A lot of this I'll do as inlays, which are, you know, there's not a functional aspect necessarily to inlays, they're just there for aesthetics. What's an inlay? An inlay is, you know, where you cut the scales and you put something in the middle, right? So, so that's what I use a lot of his stuff for, but it makes beautiful, awesome handles as well. And again, with micarta, it has good resistance to moisture. And one of the neat things about micarta is that when it does get wet, it actually sometimes gets a little bit of texture to it. So that's cool. Versus a natural wood, when it gets wet, it's going to swell up. Like, we all know that property of wood, right? And you can't get away from that. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So, again, synthetic materials, wide variety of stuff. I don't have any right out here right now, but carbon fibers are another great example. And you can still do things like I did an inlay with a elk ivory and a carbon fiber handle for a hunting set a few months ago. So tons of fun stuff that you can do if you want it to have the personal touch. One thing about the inlays that's cool is if you wanted to have something that was natural, real, like elk ivories, and have it inlaid so that it was protected, you can always do that with a resin epoxy inlay. Not everybody does those, but I happen to really enjoy doing those. Okay, moving on then from synthetic materials to natural materials. Like, my personal preference is a natural material. I love wood. I like the feel of it. I like the way that it takes on character over time. You know, this is my grandpa's old ball peen hammer. I think it's probably 100 years old. But you know, it's got a greasy oiliness to the handle that is just, oh, it's awesome. Every time I pick it up, there's just a little bit of magic in that. And I'm like, man, that's gonna do some good stuff, right? But when we look at natural materials, you know, at a base level, I mean, it comes as a piece of wood, right? And so the question becomes then, if I were to just cut this, and this is a piece of koa, if I were to just cut this and put this on a knife handle, it would make a very poor knife handle. What's gonna end up happening, because it's raw, it's gonna swell with water, and it's gonna crack, it's gonna split, it's not gonna fit up and match evenly with the knife blade, and that's gonna create problems over time. Hunting knife, absolutely no-go, all right? And we all have those old hunting knives from the family, you know, so with that said, some of those, well, any new knife, let's jump to there. Any new knife that's using a natural material like wood should be stabilized. And so these are some examples of some wood that I got from Bitterroot Handle Works. I think it's box elder on both of them. They are dyed. But this has been stabilized. So they actually put a resin inside of it. Generally it's heat cured, and then it, in a sense, kind of plasticizes this. But the important thing to understand, it will still take on water. So if I, you know, put drops of water on this cut edge, it's gonna absorb, all right? But it is going to resist swelling and shrinking. So I will purchase from professional manufacturers like Bitterroot Handle Works. I'll also do stuff in-house when there's a need that I can't meet through somebody else. So for this was whiskey cask that I used. And so to be able to use that whiskey oak barrel, I cut it up and then I put it into a vacuum chamber. I suck in a resin into that, let it soak. Usually takes about a week for that process to happen. And then I take it out and I heat cure it in an oven. And so it does essentially the same thing that we're getting done here, but I'm able to do that in small scale here at home with either woods that are special and unique to people. I'm going to be doing one with a piece of wood from an old pig pen that's very memorable for someone that I know here really shortly. So, but then you can also do it with exquisites. Like I came across this at Woodcraft. It was an absolutely beautiful piece. And I mean, it was much bigger than this. This is what I've cut. This is one of the blocks that I've cut down. But again, if I didn't stabilize this, it would be virtually worthless for a quality knife. And especially given the quality of this wood, it would be a waste of time and money for me to put this on a knife without stabilizing it. So with that said, I've given a lot of conversation, I think, a lot of pieces. I think the biggest thing to understand and think about when you're looking at those handle materials is, what do I want from this knife? Again, if it is a purpose-built tool, like a purpose-built hunting tool, and that is all you're gonna do with it, and you're fine if it doesn't have the character of wood, you just want it to show up and do its job and not cry about it if you put it away before it gets cleaned. This is the type of material that you'd want to go with, or maybe a carbon fiber or something like that. On the flip side, if you are really tied in to more of the nostalgia, the romance of the event, the adventure, then you might look at something more along these lines. Just understand that this material, this natural material, will potentially swell and contract over time. With that said, any reputable knife maker will offer some sort of spa treatment for your blades. For this, for instance, if this were to swell, we could come in and buff that area out, sand it down, blend it back, and away she goes. When that's happened in the past, I've noticed, that usually it's a one-time event. It doesn't typically continue to keep happening. And so you clean it up and you move it along. If it's something that is more of a manufacturer defect, then you know what, your company's gonna stand behind that as well, or they need to at least. So those are some of my thoughts on materials. Again, the idea here was just to get kind of a general overview out. There is so much. Like, again, I can never just say to somebody, it's rare that somebody comes in and says, I want this, can you do it like this and use this wood and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, well, what are the possibilities? And then you start talking and you can almost see the overwhelm. And so we have to kind of shrink it back and say, okay, what are we trying to achieve? And if we look at that, there's a lot of really cool stuff we can do. There are natural woods that don't even need to be stabilized. Things like ironwood, for instance, make an excellent knife handle. Something that's going to last for a very, very long time if you take care of it. But they don't have to be stabilized. And so they're wonderful. It's a great handle choice. Any natural material like a wood, you're going to want to make sure that you're taking care of it though, that you're waxing it, that you're buffing it, stuff like that. And we walk through those processes as well. So anyway, again, point was just to be able to connect and share some of these ideas with you. I think it's important whether you're having a custom knife made or whether you're buying your next knife, like knowing what you're looking for and why you might choose this over this, always vital. So hope you guys are doing well. Drop any questions you got down below, and any ideas on future videos. We're gonna be doing some coming up on, I'm gonna be doing some on blade shape for different purposes. We've got plans to do some on knife steels. So a lot of different things coming in, more than anything, just to have some talking points to be able to think through, one, for clients that have ordered knives, and just be able to, they can see this and they can be like, ooh, that was a great point, I want that. But on the other hand, also for anybody that's looking at that next blade, wondering how to make the best choice, hopefully this can help. Y'all have a great night. We'll talk soon. Bye.